The Castlevania Adventure for Game Boy gets a bad rap, but it's really not as bad as folks make it out to be. It's got flaws, sure, and I'll address those, but for a game from 1989 on the original Game Boy, and one of the system's early games, I thought it was pretty good, and aside from some frustration, I actually really enjoyed my time playing it. The Castlevania Adventure is a prequel to the original Castlevania, and sequel to Castlevania III: Dracula's Curse. The game's protagonist is Christopher Belmont, a member of the Belmont clan who faced Dracula in the 16th century, 100 years after Trevor Belmont, but 100 years before Simon Belmont. Unfortunately, the folks at Konami's American office didn't know what they were doing, and put Simon's name on both the box and in the manual, leading to a ton of confusion when Castlevania Adventure 2, Belmont's Revenge, came out a few years later, and suddenly everybody started talking about some dude named Christopher. As I said, I don't think this game deserves a lot of the harsh criticism it gets from players these days, but there are some definite flaws. It takes forever to get anywhere, and you can forget about outrunning enemies. He also drops like a rock after he jumps. If you've played the first Castlevania on NES, you know that Simon gets a little bit of air before he lands. I guess Christopher ate a hearty diet of lead, because he drops faster than my bank account balance when a new Nintendo console launches. In sharp contrast to his supersonic drop, his gait is downright glacial. Christopher moves about as quickly as a continental shelf. His slow speed and rapid descent in and of themselves didn't bother me, but it made Stage 3 excruciatingly difficult to get through. That stage has you spend the majority of the level jumping from rope to rope, and these have to be pixel-perfect jumps. All the while, you're being pursued by a spike wall that moves just a little too fast for comfort. You pretty much have to climb the rope to the very top before you're able to make your jumps with how fast he falls, but remember that he moves really slowly. But also remember that there is a massive wall of insta-gib spikes rapidly closing in behind you. It's an extremely frustrating and indescribably stressful part, and really the low point of the entire game. Now that I've discussed the game's major flaws and why most of the Castlevania's fandom seems to despise it, let's take a look at what the game does right, and why I personally really enjoyed it. The game's broken into 4 stages, and as I've already said, Stage on 3 is about as close to hell as I've ever experienced. The first 2 stages, however, are a lot of fun, and aside from the normal frustration that comes with Castlevania games, I had an absolute blast playing them. Yeah, Christopher's slow as molasses in an igloo, but that's okay when you're not trying to outrun homicidal spike walls. In Stage 4, the last stage, you get to fight Dracula. And it's obviously a very challenging stage, but it didn't feel as maliciously sadistic and almost unfair as Stage 3 did. It'll frustrate you, definitely, but it's still fun to play. One thing that I think is important to note is that the game doesn't try to do too much. I'm sure you've all played a game that had some great ideas, but just tried to do too much for the hardware, or didn't have the controls to really facilitate what it was trying to do. Castlevania Adventure didn't do that. With a D-pad and 2 buttons on a handheld system that already wasn't particularly powerful when it launched, they didn't needlessly complicate things. They kept it simple by removing sub-weapons and hearts. Some folks are going to be disappointed by that, but keep in mind that this was not only the first Castlevania game on a handheld, but one of the first third-party games on the Game Boy at all. It's more important to get the core gameplay right than to do too much and screw it up, and I think that given the game's slower pace, less is more. Don't let the internet fool you. The Castlevania Adventure isn't nearly as bad as people make it out to be. It's far from perfect, but at the end of the day, for what it is and when it was made, it's a good, competent Castlevania experience. The movement is slow, and Christopher falls too fast, but all things considered, I thought the game controlled decently well. Given the Game Boy's limitations, and the fact that this game came out just 6 months into the system's life, I think Konami made a great first effort here. It may not have aged well, but that doesn't mean it can't still be an enjoyable experience if you can put it into the context of 1989. My rating for the Castlevania Adventure on Game Boy is a B.